everybody. It's Stephanie. It's Friday, January 7th. Okay, so it's been a very, very, very interesting week, but it's also been a very, very, very interesting day today. So, I want to discuss the pros and cons of coming out to your family as a transgender woman. What are the pros and cons? I'm not sure how to pose this question because different eras, different times, different ages in our life, it's been different. In the earlier years, I don't know whether it was more acceptance or not. I don't think it was more acceptance in the earlier years. I think transgender or transsexual women were more of a private thing. When women transitioned, it was hush-hush. I don't think we came out to society and the only ones who knew were a medical profession, our families, siblings, and back then there was no such thing as trans rights. Okay, the LGBT community was not formed as well as it is today, and it might have not even known as LGBT community. What I'd like to discuss today is about the pros and cons of coming out to your family in today's time. But before I continue, I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and those visitors that are just browsing through my videos. But if you see something that resonates with you and clicks with you, please consider hitting that subscribe key. But don't forget to hit that top bell so you get future notifications of my uploads. Talk to you guys real soon. So, I think if trans people back in the 50s and possibly earlier were to come out to their family, they might have been forced to go to some psychological evaluation. Maybe they would be asked to go to shock treatment, psychiatric evaluations. Maybe the parents, if they're young enough, would make their children go through some really strange tests and heavy scrutiny by psychologists. And that's, in today's world, they don't do that. As a matter of fact, the DSMV removed transsexualism or transgenderism out of their medical journals. because we're not sick people, okay? We're not just, we're not delusional. The feelings that we feel inside of us, the conundrum that we've been fighting and struggling with, began in early childhood. There were things that were not understood by myself as I was going through my life. I was a very lonely child, but it was harder after my puberty. If our bodies didn't change at puberty and our physical bodies didn't change a lot, yeah, we can't change our sex organs, okay? We can't stop chest hair growth without estrogen and testosterone blockers. And we can't help our voices from changing to be as pronounced as they would be after puberty. So when you go through puberty at the age of 14, it seems like your whole world is crashing down on you. It's almost like a race of time. You're racing against time. I can say that you could race against time in the sense that you want to transition, get it all done before your body gets ransacked by testosterone that would throw you into some deep turmoil. If there was no such thing as puberty, you can live with your feminine voice that you had even when you were a male before puberty. If your parents understood, or the parents of trans children could understand way back then in the 1950s or 60s, we wouldn't have as many late onset transgender people, okay, that get clocked at every block, okay, that it's the reason of the stigma in society. When you see an older trans person, even after some facial feminization surgery and the gender surgery and all that, and the use of hormone, even when we're fully transitioned post-op, we do get clocked. We do get clocked. It's harder on us. No matter how well you pass, we seem to have, because of late onset transgenderism and transsexualism and going through the transition at a later year in life, we seem to throw out this energy of maleness that we just can't seem to hide. Should you even hide it? It's the reason why so many of us that decide to just be, just put it out there, okay? But no matter what you do, society has its ways of saying that we are playing games with them, or that we are trying to fool them that we're women. We're being deceptive. Okay. Having so many different challenges, society, employment, education, dealing with the medical establishment, our children. That's a lot to swallow. So that's why I made a list called the pros and the cons. I made a list of the pros and the cons. I'm going to try as best as I can with the experience that I have and these things that pop in my head that tell me, yeah, make a video of this. Yeah, people will watch it. It could be a learning curve for them. It could be a lesson, or it could be educational. We have a lot of challenges, or had a lot of challenges. Some of us can say we had. Some of us might say we still have. Challenges never go away. The degree of challenges change. Some of the cons we know is very important because it contributes to our personal growth, whether it's negative or positive. The possibility of losing family. That's a real one. That's a very real one. Because families are different levels, and they're deep and they're wide. The possibility of losing families are great. It was greater, in my opinion, back when in the 1950s and 60s, when we had the Trailblazers come out. And there was a time back then where they lived what term they used was stealth. Very, very stealth. But it wasn't always easy either. Not everybody back then, as today, couldn't afford to go through a transition. Okay, so there was a lot of trans people resorting to work that was involving the sex industry. I'm sure you've gone to the girly stores and where they sold pornographic videos and magazines, and you've seen the cover of the videos. I'm not going to use the terminology that they use in the cover because I thought that the covers and the titles was very offensive and very disrespectful. It's downgrading. And a lot of men was attracted to that when they saw a woman with a penis. What these men didn't understand was that these women were only trying to make ends meet, besides putting food on the table and a roof over their head, was to fund their sexual reassignment surgeries. But what it did for us in the present was it left a stigma in men who was only thinking with their penises. And it labeled us till today. You know, words like tranny, okay? Or certain terms that they use for women with penises. Transvestite, transsexuals. You know those terms, those disrespectful, ugly terms that they use in the porno industry. Well, that left a stigma in society. And a lot of the old generation people still think the same way. They think that it's just a fetish thing. Yeah. And the sex industry are the only ones that benefited because they made billions of dollars. Okay. Today, you have young teen trans people that in those states where there are no trans rights, a lot of them resort to sex work. These are the cons. But also because of social stigma also hit home. Okay? You come home, you tell your mom and dad that you're really a girl, but they see a boy. But when you go in the mirror, you see a boy, but you feel like a girl. You're young, you don't have a job, you're still in school. And if it was back then in the 1970s and 60s, they just throw you out of the house. Out on your ass in the street, you got no place to go. What do? You may resort to sex work. Or you may be picked up by a sex industry recruiter. Horrible, horrible. But these are the challenges of the late onset transsexuals. Possibility of losing family is great, even today. And because of the possibilities of losing family, along with it comes suicidal rates. I'm going to try as hard as I can to keep this episode within 30 minutes, or else I'll do like a part 2. I don't know if I want to. The other thing of losing your family, and of course, if you have children and you're a late onset transsexual, your children are also your family, of course, and the possibility of losing them are great. Some may never accept you. Others support you immediately because they believe that you're still the same person in spirit. In our spirit never changes because our outer body changes. Our outer body can change with as much finance that you're willing to use, that you have, that's available to you. The other thing that is a challenge is we still have violence today. We still have violence in society today against trans people. Trans people of color have the greatest violence in the whole spectrum. And then it's going to be the Hispanic, the Hispanic side of trans people have violence as well. Because they think that they've been deceived. I read about a young woman who was murdered in her apartment because her boyfriend found out that she had a penis. As much as she tried to explain and educate him, it was a bad time. That's why I say it's probably best if you don't get into a heterosexual relationship until you're finally transitioned. Okay. There's a lot of violence there. Today, even if you're not in a relationship and you're wandering into a community or neighborhood where you can run into problems, you can be assaulted, you can be murdered. So violence is a challenge, is a big obstacle for us, so we have to be vigilant. These are all cons of coming out, the things you have to tolerate, and the things you have to have alligator skin, thick skin, street smart. The other thing is your friends. Many of my friends, it didn't matter whether they accepted me or not, because I decided to change my state where I lived in. I didn't want to transition in the same state where I grew up in, where I know a lot of people, you know. And the causes for disdain and controversy with our friends and family is mostly because they feel that we've deceived them. They feel we've lied to them, that we deceived them. They feel shameful. How are they going to explain extended family, and how are friends that you grew up with explain to their family, oh, you know, so and so that we grew up with is no longer that person? So of course this kind of like rubs off on your own family because of embarrassment. They're embarrassed. And if they're religious and if they believe in God and all this other stuff and they go to church every Sunday, it's worse because now they have to explain to their friends that they go to church with. Okay. So, other than all that, the physiological changes that we go through is incredible. As short as 2 to 3 months, visible changes from hormone use is already taking effect in the way that your body fat is deposited and transferred throughout your body. Okay, so that's a giveaway. Because when you go out in society and you just started your hormone, your HRT, you get attention right off the bat. You may get the stares, like it could be an offensive stare. It could be a stare of confusion. They're trying to figure out if you're male or female. And then you get that one person who's very insulting. And now, wherever you are, it's prone that you could be assaulted just from the hormone use. Just because now you don't fit in as a male or female. You may have the skeletal features of a male, but your fleshy side is female. You know, that's a challenge. To us, the changes are very subtle, but to people,